Hello, welcome to teleSUR English. I'm Gladys Quesada, and today I receive Lucia Magano Lipumbu, the Minister of Industry and Commerce of Namibia. Be welcome.
Thank you, Gladys. I'm happy to be here.
It's a pleasure for us to have you here. So let's start, because Namibia, as many other post-colonial countries and also an African country, has a deep wound from the colonial past also. And we know that there is a past of inequalities and maybe also disparities in social dynamics and the economics. But it has been praised because in the last years, Namibia has been recovering from that situation and it's been focusing on giving back to the people the resources that have been stolen and also investing in natural conservation. So which has been the strategy of the government, and from your portfolio and your administration also, which has been the focus and the strategies in this case?
Namibia is coming from that background, like you have explained it very well. Namibia, at onset, worked on the vision where we want to take the country. That is Vision 2030. And through that vision, we developed 5 years plans. Those are national development plans that last for 5 years. On those plans, then we explicitly make provisions for interventions that are going to uplift our people from the living conditions that they have been in the past. And these interventions looked at the resources of the country. And as you have spoken about our environment, we start with the environment where we already included it in the Constitution to protect, conserve, and make sure that the environment is sustained. And from there on, we looked at the resources, the mining, the fishing, and all other agricultural products that we have. We expanded the activities to see to it that they become beneficial to the Namibian community at large. Anchored on those development plans, we therefore then have to develop individual sectors plans. And if it comes to my sector that you're referring to, we have what we call the Growth at Home strategy. The Growth at Home strategy focuses on the sectors that we believe we have the niche opportunities to grow the economy of the country. And these are sectors that were untapped in the past. We looked at especially the charcoal, we looked at the cosmetic, we looked at the marine. Of course, we have the fishing industry that have been flourishing, but the value addition was not at the level that we want. And then we looked at metal fabrication, we looked at taxidermy, and we felt these are some of the additional sectors to the ones that I have narrated earlier on in terms of value addition and growth of the economy. And as such, we have performed well, looking at where we are as a country that just gained independence 33 years ago, and how we have fared in terms of the social safety nets, that we make sure that the vulnerables and those that are not able to sustain themselves are taken care of by the various interventions that the government have put in place.
One of those strategies has been an open education, because in Namibia, and I think this is a plus, this is a value of your country, has free, open public education for primary and secondary pupils. So is this one of the ways to give back to the people in your country?
Education in the past, if we go and we take you down back to the memory lane of the colonial past, had been segregated in 2 categories of where you would have education that was meant for the black community, education that was meant for the coloreds, and then you would have educations that was meant, the system that was meant for the white community. Post-independence, the government interventions came on board to say that now the education is going to be equal for everyone, free access by everyone, and for the first time we established institutions of higher learning in the Republic of Namibia There has not been in any university before independence. Now we're talking about 3 universities and a number of tertiary institutions that are training Namibians, because we are saying under the Vision 2030, we want to be an industrialized nation, and that should be done by our own people, Namibians, human resources that are capacitated and developed by Namibia herself, so that we will be living in peace and harmony in the future.
So let's think about the region and regarding the continent. In an article published on July the 12th this year, the World Economic Forum said, and then we quote, "In the coming decades, Africa will become a pivotal player in international affairs." And it also referred to changes in politics, in the social dynamics, and also moving beyond the post-colonialist independence. So is this just a forecast, or this is a possible reality? And also how Namibia plays a role in this future era of Africa, in this coming age of Africa?
It's a future that is real. If we look at where we are positioning ourselves in terms of regional development, we are part of the SACU configuration, that are 5 countries that have a common monetary currency. And then we are also part of SADC, and then we are part of the bigger picture, Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. And by extension, we have various agreements between ourselves at the bilateral level with various countries. And then we would also have the multilateral agreements post the continent with other various economic players. And as such, we have established ourselves as a country that have been positioned to ensure that we don't only look inward at our population of 2.4 million, but we're looking at the populations that we have subscribed to by extension through those agreements. If we talk of SADC and we talk of the population of SADC, we're talking about more than 300 million. And then we look at this and we say, how can we reach out to those landlocked countries that are part of the SADC? Namibia have developed a port, the port of Wafish Bay, that is now servicing about 5 of those landlocked Southern African countries that do not have access to port. And when it comes to Venezuela, as we have been deliberating over the week, we are saying, how could we increase the South-to-South cooperations through these ports? What are the goods that we can export, not only to Venezuela, but to the rest of the Latin American countries or to the rest of the Southern countries, as we are looking at the sea that is the only border that is between us? We can export and import goods between our 2 continents, our 2 countries, and it's doable. And Namibia has positioned herself also in terms of the various initiatives that we have taken. Of late, we have said so many times in the past, our minerals were exported in a raw form. And we are saying now, let's start adding value to this mineral at home. And if we are not able to, let's find partners that would be able to assist us to do that and to establish some of these mineral deposit institutions at home to add value there. If we're talking of lithium, if we're talking of various minerals, of late people are talking of real earth minerals, what can we do to add value to them? And I am sure you have learned that of late there was a discovery of oil in Namibia, and we are also then working on the production of green hydrogen and ammonia as energy supplement to support our industrialization agenda. And we are on course, and we are expecting, and we are reaching out to any other international partner that would be willing to come on board and assist us to grow the economy of our country.
You were mentioning something that I find very interesting, because, as you know, Latin America, especially Cuba, held the presidency, the pro tempore presidency of the G77 plus China group. And one of the premises of this group is to find cooperative advantages, which is how to find the strategies and the resources of different countries and cooperate. So next year, the presidency of the group will be passed to Uganda, an African country that will be, well, the main venue and the head of this group for a year. So how do you believe this passing the baton from Latin America to Africa in this sense, and the G77 plus China will enhance this South-South cooperation and also the ties among Africa and Latin America?
The ties between Africa and Latin American countries has been long-standing. It's not anything new. Passing the baton in terms of leadership of the G77 to Uganda, it's a supplement to the realization of us ensuring that we don't only trade with the rest of the country outside the continent, but we trade with the rest of the African countries. We support Uganda, and we will stand by them in all aspects to make their hosting of the presidency a success. So as it now, there are several initiatives between us and Uganda at a bilateral level, but also at a continental level, as they have subscribed to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. We are going to engage them, and we are going to give them the necessary support so that we prove to the world that Africa is ready and Africa can trade with whoever is the international partner. And we also want to thank you for hosting the presidency with diligence, and we continue to rely on our friends such as yourselves in Cuba to make sure that our economic ties grows. Our relationship should not only end at the political level. We know we have a history that is beautiful, and this history should continue to be glorified and to be glamorous, especially in economic aspects.
Precisely. We know African countries and some Latin American countries are champions of multipolarity in the world. So now we will be taking a short break, but stay tuned as we will retake dialogue. Stay with us. And we are back in our conversation with Mrs. Lucia Magano Lipumbu, the Minister of Industry and Commerce of Namibia. So we were discussing Namibia and its domestic policies and also its role in the African development. And you were talking about a Pan-African strategy and to engage also in the cooperative advantages between all the African countries and also the ties and the relationships with Latin America. But also there is other relationships between Africa and other parts of the world that enhances multipolarity, which is one of the main topics on today's geopolitics. And as one of those is the case of the relationship between China and Africa, that is one of the strongest ones in the terms of economic ties and also the politics. In the case of Namibia, its relation with the Asian giant is going even beyond the declaration on the formalization of these relations back in 1990, when you gained your independence. So the bilateral commerce also doubled 20 years ago, and today is stronger and stronger. So which is the future of the relations and what they could mean for the construction of a different Africa and Namibia?
Our relationship with China did not even start at independence. If I can take you back, our relationship with China, just like our relationship with Venezuela and Cuba, and so many other revolutionary countries, started way back during our liberation struggle. And it has just grown and grown from strength to strength. We have been cooperating with China, and we continue to cooperate with China. We have a bilateral trade agreement that is signed between us and China. We have import and export activities that are ongoing. In the past, the trade balance were in favor of China. Of course, it's a giant, as we say, in terms of the economy. But as you have known, there are other levels of cooperation that were developed through the mainstream of our general cooperation with China. The One Road, One Belt initiative from China.
Yes.
And of course, the FOCAC, all those different arrangements, Namibia form part of them. And at many instances, when we engage with our Chinese counterparts, we look at what can we both benefit. And if I can tell you now, of late, when we add to the basket of the goods that we export to China, Namibia started exporting her beef to China almost a year ago. And that's now on top of the minerals and the various goods that we have already been exchanging between our two countries. So we're saying we must grow this relationship, and it should be beneficial for both parties. China is the largest world economy, as we know, and we cannot afford not to trade with them. And building on the relationship that we already have, our expectation is that it must grow from strength to strength. And if we are now to bring on board some other role players that would facilitate in terms of especially the value addition, we're saying what is it that we can learn from China to start manufacturing tiles, to start adding value to our timber, to start manufacturing lithium at home. And all these are what we are going to expand as we every now and then review the trade agreement between us and China and some other economic role players.
And not just in economics, because as has been reported, China has education ties with Africa, also cultural ties in this matter.
We have quite a number of Namibians that have been trained in China and continue to be trained in China in various fields of our development and in various fields of our economic sectors. And as such, it makes it easy for them to come back home and plow what they have learned. As much as we saying we want to learn from China, China have also something to learn from us. Our cultural tourism, which is our focus now, it have gained momentum. In the past, the tourism base of Namibia was more oriented to the European market. But of late, we have seen an increase in the Asian tourist that comes to Namibia and focus more on cultural tourism and cultural dimensions, which I believe give meaningful relationship to the relationship of economy between our two countries.
You have a beautiful country, and of course, tourism is one of the main sectors of activity. So regarding the relationships of Namibia with other parts of the country, we know that since Namibia gained independence in 1990, it maintained a close and uninterrupted relationship with Venezuela. You were talking about the ties that go even beyond that date, Baghdad date. So in the current geopolitical situation, and the possibilities for a multipolar world, how both nations navigate in further and more concrete engagements.
If you are to interview me today, in the past less than 12 months, I am the 4th minister to come to Venezuela from Namibia.
Wow.
Yeah. In December last year, our Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of International Relations and Cooperation was here, had engagements with President Maduro, with the leadership of the government of Venezuela. And based on that, we had a bi-national commission where we saw 8 Venezuelan ministers come to Namibia. It was a successful engagement that culminated into these other 3 trips. My counterpart, the Minister of Mines and Energy, was here. As I told you that we recently had the oil discovery, we said Why can't we go learn from our own? We don't go far. We go to Venezuela. We learn from them in that industry and in that sector. How did they evolve and how did they develop the sector? And just a week before my arrival, the Minister of Labor was here, had engagement with the counterparts here, and I am here. And all this is giving meaning to the relationship. However, at the geopolitical level, and as we see the evolvement of the geopolitics in all aspects, our voice and our clarion call against the sanctions that have been instituted on Venezuela continue to be strong, continue to be strengthened. At every platform, at every occasion that we get, we don't shy away from pronouncing that. And we continue to stand by Venezuela, and we continue to call on those that have instituted these unnecessary sanctions to go back to the drawing board and think about what they are doing, which is not just to the people and the government of Venezuela. So our voice in terms of solidarity with the people of Venezuela remain and continue to be strong. And we are saying, whatever comes, we stand by you and we continue to support the just cause to see to it that one day Venezuela stand as strong as it has been, and its economy will flourish as it has been always before the sanctions were instituted.
What I find as the core of your words is like that you come to Venezuela as an equal, as a friend, in a horizontal relationship, not in a vertical one. And you don't look to other powers or Western powers. You are finding a fraternal relationship with an equal, with Venezuela. So in this case, you have been saying that you voice these condemnations of the sanctions. And I think that your country does a lot in that matter, and also being a voice and an advocate in the African platforms and in the worldwide platforms.
We continue to be an advocate everywhere. Of late, there was a Russia-Africa summit. We made a pronouncement in the African continent, at the African level, and anywhere else, including in some other continents that I don't want to mention. We don't shy away from saying what we feel is right and is just, and that is to continue calling for the removal of sanctions from Venezuela and Cuba so that their economies would grow, and we can continue to cooperate at the level that we want to cooperate with our two sister countries.
Precisely. So regarding these relationships, how could impact the future geopolitics, this relationship with Namibia and Africa as a whole, with Latin America?
Namibia as a country, we stand on our feet. We observe what is happening along the globe. Where we see that there is a need for us to condemn what is happening when it's not just and it's not fair, just like we condemn, as it now, what is happening in Palestine. We continue to make our voice being heard, and we continue to stand by those that we feel are being marginalized or are being treated unfairly. And we wish that someday the global politics get to normalize so that economic activities would take a priority. We must understand that the effect of instability, political instability in various countries have a negative impact on the economic performance of our countries. And as such, no one would ever want to experience what we are experiencing now. Even if you sit in Namibia and you are not affected at a personal level or at a country level, what is happening in the next country have an impact on your economy, have an impact on your political stability. And we are saying We want this global village to become a world where we will all be living in peace and harmony, when we will definitely focus only on our economic activities and forget about the guns, forget about the war. There has been an initiative by the African Union for us to silence the guns in Africa and beyond Africa. Of course, we have been working around the clock to see that happening, but as much as we do not have control of the involvement of instability in some other countries, it's our call and it's our wish that the world would come back to normal at some point.
So thank you. Thank you for this moment, and thank you for the words for teleSUR English.
Thank you very much, and I was happy to be here, and I look forward to come back again on my next trip to Venezuela.
You are welcome to be here anytime. So we were talking to Mrs. Lucia Magano Lipumbu, the Minister of Industry and Commerce of Namibia. I'm Gladys Quesada from Caracas, Venezuela.